Will Britain carry on sharing intelligence with the EU post-Brexit?
I expect so, yes. But of course, that depends on the outcome of the Article 50 negotiations. But there is an understanding, I think, in London, and I think it's shared in Brussels, that the importance of security cooperation, especially right now when we're facing a heightened threat from terrorism, as we know, and highly challenging cybersecurity threat, as the WannaCry ransomware attack last month showed. There's a recognition that all that means we need to stay together in the as close as possible way to fight these challenging security threats.
Right. How much cooperation is there with the EU at the moment? And do you think this will be one of the UK's top priorities when negotiating?
Well, Prime Minister Theresa May has made that very clear, I think, in the letter that she sent in March that initiated the Article 50 process, that alongside trade, security is a top-line priority for the United Kingdom. And as I said, that's, I think, reciprocated by the institutions of the European Union. And at the moment, to your question, yes, there's a considerable amount of intelligence being shared through Europol and other police cooperation mechanisms in the EU to help keep British citizens safe from acts of terrorism, cybercrime, other forms of crime, but in return, of course, to ensure that Britain plays its part in helping to secure a more safer Europe as a whole.
Can the UK remain a member of the European Arrest Warrant, which is a scheme that enables the UK basically to eject criminals? This was started in 2004. Can they remain part of this post-Brexit? Or, again, is it all about negotiation and political power?
I think it's relatively straightforward for the UK to remain part of Europol because we have a number of association agreements with non-EU member states. It's more challenging in other areas of police cooperation mechanisms, including the European Arrest Warrant. And there are issues about the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, of course, that would need to be considered. But all of this is open to negotiation. There is an understanding on both sides, as I said, that we've got to get the right security deal in place for the benefit of Europe as a whole. And at this stage, it's not possible for me to predict what the outcome of that might be.
The UK, of course, has suffered a number of terrorist attacks in recent months. What have we actually learned from these attacks?
I think it illustrates the trend that we've seen in Europe over the last 2 or 3 years, where we've seen a wave of these terrible terrorist atrocities, how dynamic the threat is from a community of thousands of radicalized individuals, very often people who are on the fringes of being known to the security authorities, and very quickly being converted into a very dangerous radicalized terrorists who commit the kind of attacks that we've seen. My learning lesson from this is the importance of intelligence sharing, cooperation across borders to meet what is essentially now an international security threat that we face, but also that it's very difficult to stop every attack because of the highly fragmented, almost randomized way that this community is operating across Europe at the moment.
How important, sir, is UK expertise in fighting terrorism, of course, some of these horrific attacks and cybercrime, to the EU?
The UK is rightly regarded, I think, around the world, not just in Europe, as a leading player in the security dimension. It has world-leading intelligence capabilities and expertise in policing as well that has helped to shape the way that Europol, in fact, amongst others, have developed in recent years to use intelligence in a smarter way to better understand the threats that we face, to make the right priority decisions about who we go after. So there's a strong British legacy throughout the European security agenda. And there's no reason why that can't continue, even if the status of the United Kingdom and the European Union will change in the future.
How much do you worry about cyber attacks, and how much should businesses actually spend to protect themselves against this type of cyber attack?
Well, of course, WannaCry ransomware told us, if nothing else, that what was quite a simple exploit of a vulnerability in many machines had caught so many businesses out. Some global multinationals had failed to take even some basic cybersecurity steps to protect themselves. So it's a big warning lesson that we've got to get the basics right. And that's even before we consider the much more aggressive, sophisticated attacks that are also out there, especially to the banking industry. In Europol, we're working very hard with the banking industry at the moment, bringing together some senior bankers at Europol next week to discuss also how to fight financial crime in a better way, to bring bring much better systemic improvements in the way that we can protect the banking industry from criminal activity.